Hi, what's up, my precious online fam, soul siblings, and friends? It is I, Ellie, and welcome to my YouTube channel. My new YouTube channel. For this very first video on this channel, I like for it to first clarify some important things which I believe new content creators, influencers, and perhaps people on the internet just might definitely need to burn in their brains. And afterwards, let y'all know some things about me and my dream of being a content creator who can express herself along with entertaining and positively encouraging you, viewers. Now, without further ado, let's begin. There's no bounds to my hate for degenerates, especially ones on the internet, has. One of the most saddest but truest reasons why you definitely should not fully trust the internet. These poor young living beings, such as kids, would need to be taught gently, specifically, and clearly that if they really want to have a public account on any platform, they gotta be careful what put out there. Posting, to be exact. Although sadly, in some cases, it can backfire. Probably because maybe they weren't taught about it. Some cases they've been taught about it, and some cases that it's that and a bit of discouragement, and just might end up taking matters into their own hands. This may be why some fake their ages online, lying about their age to be exact. But the disgusting part is, they're supposedly minors making explicit content. Yo, I've seen some bullshit on TikTok and stuff, and there's technical kids making dirty stuff like getting freaky with some fictional character as a fangirl. Not only that, but also some stuff that gets gacha games involved, gacha heat to be exact. I know this may be absurd at first, but I just get this feeling that some of those nasty videos appear to be made by children. The fact that we'll never know if it's either those kids sneaky making explicit stuff such as this. I'd like to make a moment to talk about a niche YouTuber.
Yo, editing alley here. This is the best I could do with the images, so if you can take a look at these, maybe just go see for yourself. I'm using this as proof of what they're doing, and this is because I'm concerned for them. So maybe just let me know what you think in the comments.
And sorry if I say this wrong, Zurjoku Zirija. My apologies if I didn't pronounce that right again. But it says here on their channel that they're a minor. And if you take a good look on their channel, you may notice that they make specifically Character X listener ASMR videos. Here's the thing. I do love me some Yumi shipping boost. But from my experience, some of those videos got verbal depictions of sexual shit. Before you do so, actually, I just want to say as much as I'm pissed off about the concepts of someone so young putting themselves on risk into the hands of any fully grown creeps who come across the videos they put out there with their own young sounding voice. I suggest you please don't ever attack or be so harsh on this ignorant preteen or teenager. Apparently they don't know any better, so just don't, okay? Now, this was not the first time I've come across someone as young making a video that contains sexual innuendo, but I just thought I'd show an example. One last thing about this channel before I forget. They made this video of themselves in a relationship with the viewers while underage. What the child, if you ever come across this by any chance, be safe out there. Speaking of harassment and such, here's a way to deal with or avoid cyberbullying. It is indeed so easy to allow such bullies to get you down in the dumps with their words. But here's the thing. They're basically just hurt individuals with nothing better to do than to upset others in order to make themselves feel better, even a little bit. And creeps included, there's a lot of low life individuals who try to get others down. There's going to be many bad individuals who lurk just about anywhere on the internet. And that includes the criminally degenerates, if you get what I mean. Though there is plenty of pros when it comes to the internet. But once some rude ass folks get y'all agitated, it's best to leave that part of the internet for a bit and go to another where that's comforting for you. To cool off, or perhaps take time off the internet because it's better to just take a break from being online and go outside, I suppose. It's best to protect your peace. Another thing is you might need to be cautious of what you post online, especially when it comes to private information. When it comes to this, the majority online can lie about their age. Pretending to be older, which I feel like is not too bad, but like, that's no excuse for folks who turn out to be minors, who do NSFW. And by the way, sadly, there will be underage folks taking risk whilst messing with adults, or at least a stranger they interact with. Let alone ones who claim to be a kid but don't send any selfies as proof of being also a kid. At least in my case, I would determine someone the same age as me by the picture of their face, but it's up to you if you want to see each other's selfies, just to be sure. Unless you notice their selfies are AI generated, just cut them out of your internet life. Block them. Tell someone you trust, an adult. Now, when it comes to being an adult and doing sex work, it can be risky as well. There will be a chance that someone could use your adult footage and your photos for revenge porn. And trust me, it could hurt you so bad knowing that there's intimate photos of you being put out there by someone who intends to ruin your life. Maybe this just happens when you're sexting with someone, but I digress. Honestly, I had this conversation with my mom, and there is a possibility that you might have material against you when you do sex work. Or I could be wrong. Moving on to one more thing about the internet is about how the majority of us came across the internet that we weren't supposed to see when we were kids. And just feel free to tell me in the comments what kind of weird shit you came across on a screen as a child. If you like to do so, I like to see some fellow weirdos getting together and talking things out. Trauma bond, laugh about it. Let's bring in some light into how relatable it is to find crazy shit at some point back then. From my experience, of course, I did in fact come across some nasty animations, and a majority of Gen Z have as well, in my case at least. But some of what I saw is like MLP characters getting frisky, vor content, suggestive Minecraft content farms stuff, or at least the thumbnails being suspicious. The MLP parody series by Hot Diggity Demon, that racist Mario animation by the same guy. Some Yo Mama animations where they make jokes about your mother. MLP horror animations with hella blood, and certain MLP animation involving a song by Andrew WK. This is just a majority of some of that cesspool, and there's certainly more that some of y'all witness when y'all weren't supposed to either. Of course, there will be times when kids find stuff on the internet, and when their parents don't monitor what they're watching when they should be. There have been times when my mom noticed something on my device and would give me a lecture about that brings a pang of guilt and shame into my soul. Of course, she was protective, as she should, but how the talk was executed, it can really hurt. It is quite a shame that many times parents could say such things to their children that can lead them to blame themselves, even without the parents knowing better about how to execute the talk about it. I suggest you go check out this video by Sticko Explains, just to at least get the gist of what I mean.
Just had to do it again. Here you go.
And again, we get that you try to protect us, but be careful what you say there. That's all. And by the way, since I'm currently 18 now, I'd rather have this channel viewed at best by mature audiences, specifically 18-year-olds, although I'd probably never know there's going to be some ones underage channel as long as they don't tell their age here online. Because, back in the day, we watched some like Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, or IS Cupquake, whatever. Maybe we'll just discuss it in the comments. And what I mean by that is let me know in the comments if that's alright or not. Just let me know. Kids, just be safe out there. So I suppose I shall share some things about myself now. And by the way, I don't know if I'm doing this right. But I'm doing what I can about it. And I make sure to tell myself that's all that matters. You might not believe it, but I tend to have a thing called anxiety. But luckily, due to healthcare, I got medication, which I try to remember taking every morning, neurodivergent wise. I did in fact experience difficulty of behavior of sort, at least back in the first few years of elementary. Sometimes it's great to be locked in the room in order to let out your frustration, other than to be restrained by your teacher's grip. My mother did the same thing when I was like 5 or 6 or younger, and just thinking of that makes my blood want to boil. Experiencing both these methods back then, and I prefer the panic room. Is it me, or do I just tend to shift to darker tones? I've honestly been wanting to be a YouTuber for supposedly a long time. I've noticed a few kids on the platform and feel a sense of jealousy. But luckily, it was better to be held back by my mom, since some of the ideas I had at the time were not the best when it comes to making content about it. But at least now I can still make a fresh start. And like Big Gaming 64 once said,
And it is never too late. There is no timeline on your passions, on the improvements you want to make in yourself. And to prove it, I'll give you an example. My uncle, who I'm very close with, spent a lot of his life trying to figure out what he wanted to do, what he wanted to take out of life. And he found that and started making those changes well into his 50s. For him, it was dogs. He spends his time working with dogs and getting them ready for adoption. And while he says he wishes he found it sooner, don't we all? I wish I had gotten into this 10 years earlier than I did, but that doesn't stop me from just taking one step forward every single day. This timeline doesn't exist. You aren't behind. There is never a better time to make a change and put your passions forward than now.
And I'd be lying if I said that was not enough to keep me going about this. Speaking of games, I tend to be getting in Roblox despite how much I tend to detest the current CEO. I try not to spend my Robux so that bastard won't get as much benefit. Although to anyone in the comments who know if it's better to delete my Roblox account, do say so in the comments. At some point, I'll be uploading some screen recordings of me playing the game on mobile, and some other things as long as it follows YouTube's guidelines and respects people's boundaries. Now, when it comes to animations, I tend to be fascinated by the concept of doing some. At one point, it had this drawing tablet my mom got me, but we had to return it since it didn't work out for me for some reason. I suppose I may do so on my phone as long as my hand doesn't mess it up, due to the small screen. Maybe some Gacha Life 2 alongside it, and hopefully it's not too controversial to do so, since I've seen some video somewhere discussing that. Let me know in the comments, and I know I keep saying that, but just when you feel like it. Another thing is that I try to drink my caffeine in the middle of the day just to keep me going during the day, because sometimes I feel like I'm getting tired and I'm trying not to fall asleep and take a nap. Just to keep me going during the day until nighttime, where I try to lucid dream. And sure, I sometimes succeed, and hopefully, I have my very own universe that I can go to at least almost every night and meet my beloved fictional others, their children, friends, and some of my people who live there, as well as occasionally going on otherworldly adventures. I suppose it's a way to use like a healthier method of escapism or something, but who knows? It's either that or I try making tulpas, or apparently both. I did in fact had some dreams where my apparently imaginary husband came by. But for some reason he'd be invisible. Probably because of me imagining him with me most of the time while I'm awake. And you can't exactly dream of something that happened in real life if you know what I mean. He's like an SCP-173 that I'm married to, but was killed out of the blue and then brought back to life as a plushie. Yet he looks different than he did. He'd have a small range of weapons, though he'll snap some bad people's necks once in a while. I suppose since there's a few variations of SCP-173, this is one made by me. Maybe I'll read out my handwritten fanfic about it in the next video. Now, aesthetic wise, I feel like we do have a hard time deciding on which one, and so do I. I'm thinking if I could make an aesthetic, it'll have some metal rock patterns occasionally, along with the dreamy fantasy like views of burgundy, maroon, and wine red skies with pastel yellow stars along with it, and patterns of silver here and there. And in some cases, some sleepwear or comfortable lingerie can be involved. Or maybe that comes to my universe, I guess we'll see. Now, when it comes to music genre, I've currently been getting into some metal rock and listening to some metal bands, getting to know a bit about them. Just like expanding my metal rock horizons and making sure to not take the sad and dark depictions too close to heart. Because technically, dark storytelling's not new to the majority of metal bands, from what I've gathered thus far. And then another thing, I know I keep on saying that, but I gotta tell y'all some more. You will know that the LGBTQ community, straight allies, the Black Lives Matter community, Democrats, or folks who consider to not go on either side, folks of any disability are free to subscribe by choice, as long as you folks are mature. But to the LGBTQ community, I must share my frustration of something. I've taken notice of some things online that show a resent for the heteros. Just being like, straight people, am I right? It'll be one thing if it's addressed as a comedic way to show frustration due to the mistreatment our community receives from bigots. Although I can't help but feel like y'all are disregarding the 3 words. Love is love. Like, seriously, are y'all just gonna throw haywire towards the group of people, apparently because the majority of them did the same thing to you first? I get how it's frustrating. Maybe it's just fighting fire with fire, and that's what y'all are implying by saying it and doing so. But this is just me expressing my thoughts about it. No biggie. On the other hand, I'm gonna do my best to put a lid on it more often. There's this thing I've learned from this video by Kaylin McFarlane 9057, and I watched it along with my fellow neurodivergents whom I'll be working with in a college internship program.
I know I keep on doing this, but it's the only way how I know how to do on Villo And feel free to check out this book if you like.
A book by Karen McLeod and Glenn Zimmer. And this is like a type of book reading video in which what gets read about aloud discusses how your bucket, lid, and dipper can be used, specifically in a metaphorical sense. And this is how you use them. Your bucket's for storing your joy, your lid's for shutting the bucket in order to protect your joy. That's inside. And your dipper, which is used to scoop joy out of your bucket. What that concept makes me feel is the fact that seemingly not enough individuals even take that into consideration is absolutely disheartening. The fact that some rich folks in power just getting away with using their dippers to scoop out the joy out of the buckets of groups of people, if you get what I mean. And the thing about commentary YouTubers who ask us to think twice before attacking whoever they discuss despite what they've done, which honestly is a good way to warn whoever watches those videos about their own dipper they were going to use. Even if it seems like the best thing to do. But a fair warning like that is indeed mandatory. It even gets me thinking that, what if we just make some fun videos here or use social media as a way to share and inspire, and maybe make sure to put warnings in videos that go pretty dark, and just have fun with what you're creating. And what if we could just express our frustrations in a way that's not directed to just possibly going too far, and just express through your words? And what if we could just express our frustration in a way that's not directed to just possibly going too far, and just express through your words? And what about sharing joy from each other's buckets if that could be a way to put joy in your bucket? By the way, I'm not intending to defend the degenerates of the internet, because they have in fact did such disgusting actions, and I won't deny any of it. Though in some cases, it's alleged. And like we've discussed, degenerates can be lurking anywhere on here. And perhaps we can express our frustrations about it and more on some degree. It's how you speak of who you dislike is what you might need to worry about. As if to say freedom of speech, but not freedom from consequences. With all that being said, thank you for being here, and please keep yourself safe. And I'm sorry about the constant change of topics, if that's something wrong. I'm just making sure to be true to y'all as I can. These are my thoughts, and once again, you're free to share and express your own down in the comments. I gotta admit, this might not be the best first video for a YouTube channel. But regardless, thanks again for checking out. Be good to yourselves, and sweet dreams.